primaries would be fair. And it turns out the primaries were not fair because the DNC cheated. And the DNC hired a bunch of lawyers and went to court. And the DNC lawyers stood there and said to the judge, and you can't make this up, you don't have jurisdiction over us. We're a private club. We can lie, cheat, and steal and fix the nomination all we want, and there's not a damn thing you, the court, can do about it. Right. That's what the lawyers said. Well, folks, if that's true, why do we hold this charade and the fake of primaries? Why do we hold caucuses? Why do we have delegates if the DNC has the power, as it says it does, to fix things? Right. That's why we have to fix the party. We have to abolish these superdelegates, which diminish or destroy and dilute the votes that you people cast, in primaries. That's what I'm going to do. All right. I'm just going to close. I like to talk, as you can tell.
Okay.
Ms. Pelosi, in the last week, has said two things of importance. First one, she was asked in an interview, what about the younger Democrats in Congress? These are not people on the street. We're talking about United States Congress people. What about the younger ones who challenge you and your leadership in the Congress? Her words were, exactly, I'm not going to waste my time addressing those people. I'm not going to waste my time. Nancy Pelosi says the Democratic Party doesn't need a new direction. Nancy Pelosi says a woman's right to control her body is, and in her words are, fading as an issue in the Democratic Party. So I'm here to ask you to help me take her down. Help me take her down, and when she goes down, the whole thing is going to go down with her. Thank you.
I had to get up. How you doing tonight, everyone? My name's Michael Bracamontes. I'm running for governor as a Democrat. I'm the progressive social justice candidate. I'm not accepting any corporate money. And I'm running for a very simple reason. I want to make things better for people without political power. It's what you're supposed to do as a public servant, and it's what we've gotten away from as a Democratic Party. In 2008, when President Obama won, the Tea Party did a good job of challenging their establishment, GOP. And it worked for them, right? The Tea Party gained power. They pushed their party where they wanted it to go. They had new energy, new ideas, new faces. And Democrats need to do the same right now, especially in California. California describes itself as the leaders of the left, the leaders of the progressive movement. But we've had the same leadership up top for the past 20 plus years that got us into this mess where we find ourselves today. Yes. So I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I grew up nearby Montebello. I went to Garfield High School. I'm the eldest of 5 kids. My parents are over here. Dad was a truck driver. Mom's a pharmacist. Give them a quick round of applause. I've attended public school from K through law school. I've met my wife, who's from Tulare, which is in between Fresno and Bakersfield. Met her down at UC Irvine, and we had our first kid a little earlier than we expected, but that's okay. So we got 2 kids now, 17 and 13 years old. So I worked full-time the last 2 years of undergrad, went to school full-time, was out there grinding. Moved up to the Bay. I went to law school at UC Berkeley. My wife got her master's in education at UC Berkeley, and she was an educator for 14 years in the high schools and in middle schools. So the past 11 years, I've been an attorney, civil rights attorney in San Francisco, nearby where Stephen's at. And we represent, in housing cases, we represent exclusively tenants against their landlords. In employment places, We represent employees in racial discrimination, sexual harassment cases, and we also handle police brutality cases. So when we're looking at what the Democratic Party needs to change and what issues they need to address in terms of platform, these are the things I'm running on. For housing, we all know there's a housing crisis. We know that gentrification. People say gentrification, like, it's actually community displacement. That's what I like to. It's community displacement, because we get calls all the time from our law office, and it's usually a little old lady calls me up. She's been in the same house for 25, 35 years and says, I got a new landlord, a new real estate investor just took over, and they just raised my rent from $1,000 to $3,000. Is that legal? And in most places in California, that's completely legal, but it's not fair. These are the people that made the communities what they are today. They raised kids in that neighborhood, they built that neighborhood, and they're getting pushed out of the place that they've been in for decades, and it's not right. It's not right. So we need statewide rent control. We need statewide just cause eviction protections. We need to repeal Costa-Hawkins and repeal the Alice Act. No other gubernatorial candidate has said that.
That's right.
What are they?
You tell me.
What's the Alice Act?
Costa-Hawkins and Alice are basically big loopholes for rent control. They essentially allow rent control to not apply to single-family residences and to most buildings built after 1978. Thank you. And the Alice Act allows big, not always big companies, but landlords to pull a property off the rental market, and they can do whatever they want with them after that. So a lot of times we'll get phone calls where there's an 8-unit building, new landlord comes in, Alice acts the whole building, which means everyone gets kicked out, and they turn the building into condos. So it's a way to displace the community.
And Airbnb.
And Airbnb. And it's contributed to this homeless problem. We've all seen an explosion in the homeless population.
That's right.
Yes.
In the past 10 years, places where you would see one homeless person sleeping under a freeway overpass, we see encampments today. Tents, cities. Los Angeles Times ran an article about a month ago that said if rent went up 5%, there'd be 2,000 more homeless people in 30 days. And that's why we need rent control and why we need these protections for tenants.
Universal rent control.
That's right. We've got a hepatitis A outbreak in Los Angeles and San Diego. We literally have people dying in the streets. Who else is disgusted by that? This is the richest country in the history of the world, and people are dying in the streets. Who's disgusted by that? With respect to criminal justice reform, we have for-profit prisons in California, which I believe need to be banned.
Right.
It's immoral that we have companies and individuals profiting off of keeping primarily brown and black people in jail. Southern California ACLU put out a statistic about a month ago that said 63% of the people currently incarcerated haven't been convicted of a crime yet. They just can't afford bail. Alameda County, it's over 80%. And people are making money off of this. Same with the immigration detention centers, these private detention centers that have all these people locked up. There's a reason for this. There's a profit motivation. The Department of Justice did a report in 2016 and compared for-profit prisons with government-run facilities. And the for-profit prisons had higher incidence of inmate-on-inmate violence and inmate-on-staff assaults. And we all know why that would be, because those companies are concerned about the money. So they have less guards, their guards are trained less, and the people up top make more money. And this privatization of government services, whether it's prisons or schools. We've got charter schools that are trying to take over the public education system. Eli Broad has talked about wanting 50% of LAUSD students in charter schools over the next couple years. And that's exactly the wrong way to go.
That's right.
That's exactly the wrong way to go. I'm a big believer in the public school system. I've attended public school. My kids have attended public school, which, most politicians, most rich people, they don't put their kids in public school. They put them in private school, and then, they give lip service to the public school system. But my kids attended public school, and it's the belief that we need an informed citizenry. We need teachers and public districts that are accountable to the public.
Yeah.
And when you've got a charter school system involved in education, boards of directors aren't accountable to the public. You can't go vote them out. That's a company. They're there to make money. These people aren't there as philanthropists.
Yeah.
So we need people in office who understand these things, that they're not there to further their political career. If regular people don't run for office, all we're left with is professional politicians who are concerned with holding on to office and winning the next election, moving up the next rung on the political ladder. We're left with multimillionaires and billionaires, and we're left with celebrities. So I applaud everybody on stage today, everybody who's run for local office or school board. That's a great thing you're doing for your community. That's how democracy is supposed to work.
Yes.
Give yourselves a round of applause. Everybody who's up here. And when we talk about healthcare, it has to be seen as a right. We've talked about how we're the richest country in the history of the world, and there are other countries that already do this. So it's not a matter of us not being able to afford something. We spend on the F-35 fighter jet over its 50-year time span. We're going to spend $1 trillion. $1 trillion. We find ways to finance all kinds of things. Jerry Brown's trying to build those twin tunnels up there in the Delta for $18 billion. The money's there. What we need is the political will to put people over big money donors. That's what we need. And so when we're thinking about who to support for office, you guys have to remember two things. One is, as Democrats and professional politicians, most of them are going to sound pretty good. For the most part, you're going to agree with maybe half of what they say, maybe 75%. But we all know that when they get into office, if they've got a conflict between keeping a big money donor happy and doing what's right for the community, they're going to pick that big money donor 10 out of 10 times. We know that. And that's why it's important to have corporate-free candidates, because we're not beholden to any special interests. We're going to do what's right for the community. We're going to keep fighting for justice, opportunity, and equity, just like we have been our entire careers. So I thank you all for listening. My name is Michael Rockmont.